Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NHL Lowdown. This is Eric Cohen from BarnBurner.ca and the NHL Lowdown on BarnBurner TV network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download both the BarnBurner and Zingo TV apps to their respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free. Zingo TV also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Well, the NHL has definitely come back with, rapid fire, and it's been, something we've never seen before. Normally, obviously when the playoffs start, you get on with your day, you do what you got to do, you come home, you have dinner, and then you got playoff hockey at night. Well, it's very different now because now you get up and there's almost playoff hockey on right from the get-go, and it goes on all night long with the two hub cities. And it's been, I gotta be honest with you, it's been really good. The hockey has been outstanding. The hockey has not suffered from the amount of time that players were off. I mean, we've heard some players complain about the lack of atmosphere, no fans. Tuukka Rask was very outspoken about that, calling it an exhibition after Boston lost to Carolina, sort of how he felt with how it was in the arena. And then Tuukka, of course, opted out to go back to be with his family. And, the Bruins have not missed a beat. I think a lot of people thought with David Pastrnak out, Pasta hasn't played since game one of that series. Got hurt actually celebrating the game-winning goal that he set up to Patrice Bergeron. And Tuukka Rask opting out after game two. I think a lot of people felt like, all right, you know what? This is Carolina's time. Boston's in big trouble here. And you got to give a lot of credit to the Boston Bruins because they were able to come out after that situation and win the next two games. And the way that they won those games, the first game they won, they didn't play a great first period, but they took over after that and, won the hockey game, got a lot of contributions. Yaroslav Halak played really well. And then yesterday, a game that I don't think anybody thought Boston could win. I mean, they give up the first goal on the first shot by Carolina, Justin Williams, 41st career playoff goal. Carolina scores again. It's 2-0. And I think we all thought, you know what? It's 2-0 going to the third. Carolina is going to win. They're going to even up this series. Carolina has a history, 4 straight times when they've trailed the series 2-1. They've won game 4 and won the series. So I think that's where a lot of us thought this was going after Martinook made it 2-0. But the Bruins came out and it was an onslaught in the third period. You had to sort of feel for James Reimer. James Reimer going back in net for the Carolina Hurricanes. He'd stopped 70 of the 73 shots that he had faced in the two games he played. The game 3 against New York, the clinching game when the Canes swept the Rangers. Game 2 against Boston, the only game that Carolina won in the series, Reimer was in net for. So Rob Brandenburg goes back to Reimer. He has a 2-0 lead, third period. And then Jake DeBrusk comes in and Reimer makes a grave mistake, comes out of his net to play the puck, misses the puck. DeBrusk goes around him, puts it in the empty net. Shortly after that, Charlie McAvoy just delivers a monster hit on Jordan Staal, knocking Staal out of the game. Don't forget Carolina already without Svechnikov, who got hurt after his collision with Chara in game 3. And the Bruins took over. Clifton tied the game just over a minute later. Brad Marchand on a partial break puts the Bruins up, and then DeBrusk, who opened the scoring, closes the scoring, and all of a sudden the Bruins score 4 goals just over 6 minutes apart in the third period. And where have we heard this before? With James Reimer. 2013 against the Boston Bruins, James Reimer and the Toronto Maple Leafs have a 4-1 lead midway through the third period. And Reimer gives up 3 goals in the third period in that game. And then, of course, the overtime winner. Well, in this game, he gave up 4 in a quicker span, 4 goals just over 6 minutes apart as the Bruins complete an improbable comeback and beat the Hurricanes 4-3 to take a 3-1 series lead. After the game, Rod Brind'Amour took complete responsibility for it and said it was on him that the players didn't respond, didn't have it in the third period. But man, oh man, what a turn of events, what a collapse by the Canes, a gutsy character win for the Boston Bruins. And Carolina didn't have a shot on goal until the final 2 minutes in the third period. They went over 18 minutes in the third period without a shot on goal before Teravainen scored to make it a 1-goal game. Yaroslav Halak didn't play very well. The goals by Williams and Martinook were not good goals. They were goals that you have to stop. But yet, at the end of the day, the Bruins show what they're made of. They showed why they are the defending Eastern Conference champions. Went to the Stanley Cup Final Game 7 last year. What a win. Now, the other team that went to the Stanley Cup Final last year and won the Stanley Cup, the St. Louis Blues, they were in action. And I think a lot of people, including myself, wrote off the Blues when they were trailing 2-0 to the Canucks. The Blues had not won in the bubble going into Game 3 of this series. Lost all 3 of their round-robin games, lost the first 2 games to the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks looked really good those first 2 games. Bo Horvat looked phenomenal. Elias Pettersson, unstoppable. Quinn Hughes, phenomenal. Jacob Markstrom playing really well. You thought after watching the first 2 games, you know what? The Blues have their cup. They just don't look like they're in it this year. And then Game 3, they win the game in overtime. Braden Shen, who showed a lot of frustration in Game 3, smashed his stick, ended up scoring the overtime winner. And the Blues last night, I thought, played a really good hockey game. Ryan O'Reilly opened the scoring on the power play. The Blues power play couldn't be stopped last night. Canucks tied it up early in the second, less than a minute in. JT Miller tied it up, but then the Blues got right back at it. O'Reilly with his second, and then Alex Pietrangelo on a 2-man advantage put the nail in the coffin. And you got to give Craig Berube a lot of credit, because Berube made a controversial switch after Game 2. He went from Jordan Binnington, who last year was up there with Ryan O'Reilly for the Conn Smythe and had been the Blues goaltender now for a while, went back to Jake Allen for Game 3. Allen played really well. And then he went back to Jake Allen in a back-to-back yesterday. And I don't think a lot of us saw that coming, but he did it. And Jake Allen again, the story. He was outstanding, only gave up the 1 goal to Miller at the first minute of the second period, and that was it. So the Blues get the win. The Blues tie up the series. The Blues, all of a sudden, they're right there. They are right there. And the Canucks now, all of a sudden, they got to shake this off. Right afterwards, I listened to all the post-game. The Canucks, they were saying all the right things. Travis Green and Miller and Markstrom, listen, we didn't expect to go and sweep this team. It's a very good St. Louis Blues team. We thought it would be a long series. We thought it would be a hard series, and that's exactly where we are in that series right now. Um, the Canucks now in a best of three after winning the first two. They got to find a way to rebound and get back on track. The Canucks power play last night wasn't good enough, 0 for 7 or 0 for 8. And they got to be a lot better. So that series tied at 2. The other action yesterday in the afternoon, Tampa Bay finding a way to take a 3-1 series lead, and the Lightning certainly looking to exercise their demons after last year when they lost to the Blue Jackets in a humongous upset. Now all of a sudden the Lightning have turned the tables. They, really putting the past behind them. The sweep at the hands of Columbus last year. This year they go out in game 1 and get the double overtime winner. Actually, sorry, not double overtime. What was it? How many overtimes did we take in game 1? I think it was like 5. It was a great. Korpisalo set an NHL record for saves, like 85. And then, the Lightning got the goal, took the lead in the series. Columbus tied it up, but since then, Korpisalo's played really well, but the Lightning have gotten a couple goals and they've made it stand out. Goodrow and Yanni Gourde got the goals for the Lightning yesterday. Cam Atkinson returned the lineup for the Blue Jackets, but the Lightning got the win 2-1, and they now lead the series 3-1. I think they'll probably move on. It's probably for the best. I think that, you want the best teams playing, and Tampa Bay has had a lot of playoff demons to exercise. When you look at the last 5-6 years, the series they've lost, you could almost make the argument every time that they're probably the better team. I think back to a lot of them that they've lost. The series against Washington when the Capitals won the Cup, I thought the Lightning were a better team in that series. Certainly last year they were better than Columbus. They've lost the series to Montreal where they certainly thought they were a better team. And, you hate to be that team that you get to the playoffs and you lose to an inferior opponent. I think the Lightning have been guilty of that, and this could have been the last straw for John Cooper had they lost this series. So good for them. They get the win. They have a 3-1 series lead, and you'd expect they'd close out Columbus relatively soon. And it's what I think the Leaf fans were frustrated about, because I think the Leaf fans felt like they were a better team than Columbus as well, and you just didn't see this kind of result. So Colorado, they did not like losing game 3 of their series to Arizona, and they came out with all sorts of fire yesterday. Nazem Kadri, couple of goals, and Leaf fans, again, this is more salt in the wounds of Leaf fans, because they could definitely use a player like Nazem Kadri. Now, in fairness to Kyle Dubas and the Leafs, Kadri the last 2 years had been suspended against Boston in the playoffs, and I don't think the Leafs felt like they could have that happen again, which is part of the reason why they made the trade that they made, sending him to Colorado for Tyson Barrie and Alex Kerfoot. But Kadri has been really good for Colorado in the postseason. He scored a buzzer beater against the St. Louis Blues in the round robin, scored a couple more playoff goals yesterday. Cale Makar scored one of the most gorgeous goals you'll ever see. Just a beautiful end-to-end goal by Makar yesterday. In all, the Avalanche scored 7 goals. The only game they've lost in the postseason was game 3 to Arizona, where Darcy Kemper stood on his head. And, yesterday, Darcy Kemper was pulled. The Avalanche, it was just that. It was an avalanche. And the Coyotes couldn't handle it. And just like that, Colorado now has a stranglehold in a 3-1 series lead, and you'd expect that series will be over soon, probably in game 5. Well, we got a busy day, as I mentioned. You wake up and you're not too far away from hockey, and we got 4 games more going on today. The Flyers and the Canadiens at 3 o'clock Eastern, so just over 2 hours away. It's been a really interesting series, this series. Game 1 was tight. Philadelphia pulling out a 2-1 win. Game 2 was one of the shockers of the playoffs, Montreal just exploding and beating Philadelphia 5-0. And a lot of talk came out of that game. I think Alain Vigneault was very angry. Vigneault literally in the morning had just talked about how emotional it was for him to see what happened to Claude Julien. This is a series that features, all sorts of former Canadian coaches, right? You got Alain Vigneault and Michel Therrien on the one bench, and then you had Claude Julien on the one bench, and all three of those guys have been fired by the Montreal Canadiens as head coach before. And Kirk Muller had been there before, so a lot of Canadians history on these benches. But once Julien had the heart procedure and the associate coach Muller took over, Muller had his top power play out there with a couple minutes left in game 2, up 5-0. And Alain Vigneault spoke out about that he was very upset, didn't feel it was right, felt that his players had been embarrassed enough. And I think just try to use that as motivation for his players. And it worked. I mean, the Flyers came out, they got the goal in game 3 early on, and they made it hold up. The Canadians hit a lot of posts, though. Kotkaniemi was really good. He's been, obviously one of their better players. And the Canadians have been winning games without their usual suspects really making the difference, right? Brendan Gallagher, who led them in the regular season, has no goals in 7 playoff games. Thomas Tatar had been really quiet until recently. Max Domi was playing on the 4th line. So the Canadians have been winning these games against really good teams without getting contributions from their best players, other than, of course, Carey Price, who's been phenomenal, and Shea Weber, who's been really good as well. So that series, game 4, the Canadians obviously have been very impressive overall. Got to give them a lot of credit for beating Pittsburgh and competing the way they're competing with Philadelphia. Philadelphia only a -135 favorite. So lines makers are taking note of the job that Montreal is doing in that series. Calgary-Dallas has been one of the most exciting series. That series will continue today at 5:30. Calgary, just like Vancouver, sort of probably thought they were in control of this thing up 2-1. They had a chance to go up 3-1. They were leading in game 4 in the dying seconds before Joe Pavelski completed a hat trick, and the Stars went on to win game 4 in overtime to even up that series. Matthew Tkachuk, who led the Flames in points, got hurt in game 2. We haven't seen him in games 3 or 4. We'll see if he comes back. The Stars are getting, obviously, a huge game out of Pavelski in game 4. Tyler Seguin's been good. And Heiskanen has been incredible from the blue line for them. He's just been amazing. I mean, the Stars have had to play without Ben Bishop for most of this series. Anton Hudobin been filling in, and the Stars have, they've had their moments where they looked like they were in trouble, but they battled back and they made this a series, and they made it 2-2, and all the credit to them for doing that when it didn't look like it was going to happen. So now that's a best of 3. The Flames are going to need, I think they're going to need Matthew Tkachuk if he's possible to come back. And obviously to do a better job, from a balanced scoring perspective. 10 different Flames scored in the Winnipeg series. They were getting a lot of balanced scoring there. They haven't got it in this series. So that's something that's important for Calgary. 5:30 Eastern today will be game 5, a huge game 5 with the series tied at 2 games apiece. Capitals and Islanders, and who saw this one coming? I mean, all the credit in the world of Barry Trotz. The last time Barry Trotz was behind the bench for the Washington Capitals, they won the Stanley Cup. They didn't want to pay him, so he went to New York, got a lucrative deal from Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders. And last year, the Islanders swept the Washington Capitals in the first round before bowing out to Carolina in round 2. This year, again, they beat Florida in 4, to get into the playoffs, and now they're up 3-0 on the Washington Capitals. Just an incredible job by Barry Trotz to have his team ready and motivated. And this Islander team is very hard to play against. Obviously, Matthew Barzal is a superstar, but other than that, they have a lot of guys that they work really hard. They have a good system. They're getting good goaltending. And, credit to them. They've gone out and taken this series away from the Capitals. A huge overtime goal in Game 3 after Verana had a chance to win it for Washington and didn't on a breakaway. The Islanders capitalized, won the game. They've been the better team. They've taken the play to Washington. And, again, Barry Trotz, who is proving to be one of the best coaches there is out there for the job that he's doing. It's just phenomenal. So Islanders have a chance to sweep away the Washington Capitals this evening at 8 o'clock. Nobody saw that coming. But that is the situation that we're in. And the Capitals, I don't know, there's going to be some major changes for them. They bowed out in the first round last year after winning the Cup the year before, and now it looks like back-to-back years are going to be eliminated in the first round. So I would expect some changes in Washington. Luckily for them, they got their cup because it hasn't been very good since in the playoffs. Regular seasons have been fine. Blackhawks and Golden Knights. Corey Crawford was outstanding in Game 4 as the Blackhawks avoided a sweep, handing the Golden Knights its first playoff loss. The Golden Knights were perfect in the round robin. They won the first 3 games against Chicago. And the only reason they didn't win Game 4 was because Corey Crawford stood on his head. And tonight, I don't think you'll get the same kind of effort out of Crawford. It's a little too much to expect. The Golden Knights a chance to put away the Blackhawks this evening. 10:30 in the late game. The Golden Knights have been very impressive throughout this playoff. Balanced scoring. And then playing 2 goalies as well. I mean, Robin Leonard played the first 2 games, then Marc-Andre Fleury came in for Game 3. They went back to Leonard for Game 4. Leonard wasn't great in Game 4. He was back goal, short side. And we'll see if Pete goes back to Fleury for this game. But the Golden Knights will have a second opportunity to eliminate Chicago and move on to round number 2. I fully expect that will happen. The Golden Knights are a minus 200 favorite to do that. So that is the situation this evening. 4 games today. It's going to be a fun day in the National Hockey League. A lot to look forward to. The NHL Lowdown, of course, keeping you up to date on everything going on in the National Hockey League with all the series and enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. The hockey's been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've been very dialed into pretty much every series, and I think that's certainly what the NHL wants. So keep enjoying it. 4 more games today. By the end of the day, the Capitals could be going home, and the Blackhawks could be going home. So we're slowly getting rid of more teams and going to be moving on to round number 2. Of course, the NHL Lowdown can be heard on the BarnBurner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. Please check out barnburner.ca for all the news. BarnBurner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. And we got lots more to come. We got Blue Jay Strike Zone coming up next, followed by a very special NBA show. So don't go anywhere. We got plenty more on the